So today at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen, we're going to make a classic shrimp and sausage gumbo. But ours is a little different because it is going to be gluten and dairy free. So the roux that you start out with has no gluten and no dairy, but it's every bit as delicious as the classic. And oh my gosh, it smells so amazing. So let's get started on that. Hi there, welcome to the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. I'm Nat Ryan. Today in the kitchen we're going to make a classic, and that is shrimp and sausage gumbo. Now, you wouldn't think that it'd have a lot of gluten or dairy or whatever, all those things that maybe you can't eat in it. But when you start a gumbo, you start by making the roux, which is the basis for the sauce. And normally you would use things like butter, maybe even coconut oil or avocado oil, but commonly butter, and of course butter is dairy. We're going to substitute that out with either vegan margarine. You have a choice: vegan margarine, lard, or bacon fat. In my case, I'm going to use some bacon fat. And normally also they use flour, so just any old kind of wheat flour. We're going to use gluten-free flour, and so we're going to make ours completely gluten and dairy free. So it's a classic, it's going to be wonderful, and it takes some time, so let's get at it. We're going to start by listing the ingredients because we need to have them on hand as we do this. Okay, so let's go through our ingredients. We're going to need some fat of some kind. I'm going to use some bacon fat. I made some bacon, or cooked some bacon, a few days ago. I've got this bacon fat, so I'm going to use that. So we're going to use that for our fat. A little bit of our gluten-free 1-to-1 flour blend. Okay, so we need that. We're going to need some chopped onion. Okay, I've already got mine chopped. We're going to need some chopped up green pepper. I have some chopped up in here. Also, we're going to have some celery chopped up and 2 cloves of garlic. I actually used one because they're really big, so I used one large. Okay, and so we're going to have that chopped up, ready to go beforehand, okay, before we start. We're also going to use we need some smoked sausage, and that can be found in the deli section of your store. Now, they're asking for the recipe I saw, and most recipes are asking for andouille sausage. I could not find that, so I looked up what I could substitute it for, and you can use a chorizo, which is a Spanish sausage, and it's smoked, it's spicy, but this one's a bit mild, but that's okay. You can do that, so we're going to use that instead. You can also use something like kielbasa, which is a Polish sausage. Now, the sausage can be either made from pork or turkey or chicken, that's fine. So we're going to use that, and of course we need some shrimp, so we got some shrimp that way. And we are going to need, of course, the spices. We got some Cajun spice blend. Now, I made my own because I couldn't find it at the store. The recipe for my spice blend will be on the recipe at the website, so go to that. There'll be a link for the website on the video. Also, we need some salt. We're going to need some chicken broth, or you could use vegetable broth. We're going to need a can of tomatoes, so we got that. We're going to need some bay leaves, so a couple of bay leaves. I'm not going to use the whole thing, but a couple of bay leaves. We're going to need some sliced okra. They were calling for in the recipe frozen sliced okra, so I have some like that. Found it, and just, I don't think I'm forgetting anything. And then maybe just a sprig of parsley at the top. Now, what we need to do before we get cooking anything is you need to chop up your vegetables. I've already chopped up mine for expediency, but before you get started with anything, please chop your vegetables first, because while you're going to need to add them to the roux, and you can't really leave your roux unattended, as it were. So I've already chopped up, of course, onion, and I've got celery and green pepper in that one, and I have my garlic double bagged because I had them in my fridge overnight there. So I've got my diced or minced garlic as well there. And so we're going to get started now, finally, right, to the good stuff. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is a Dutch oven or big large pot on the stove. I've got it turned on. I'm going to turn it to medium. I just got it whacked up high to get it started. Turn it to about medium high for starters. We're going to get our fat. So if you're using vegan margarine or lard or bacon fat, in my case, my goodness. Okay, I'm going to use my finger, but we're going to get that in there. So yeah, and get that sort of melting. Okay. So we need to melt that first. Now this is what makes the roux. So a roux is like a combination of fat and flour, right? And that becomes your basis for your sauce of whatever it is. So this roux actually needs to be quite dark, okay? See, I'm going to wipe my finger on that. Going to be quite dark. It needs to be dark, and it needs to be sort of you don't want to burn it, but you want it to become sort of caramel color. So this is the thing. So we got it like that. We're going to get that bacon fat like melted. Okay, we're going to need definitely, this is where we need a whisk. And you know me, if you know me and you've been watching my channel and my videos here, you know that I love a good whisk. I love me a good whisk, and I love me a good whisking job. Okay, so that's almost, melted in the bottom there. So then we're going to add our flour, our gluten-free flour. You can find the recipe on the website. The link is there in the description for this video. And there. So now we're going to add our flour right to that. Okay, and then we need to whisk that together. Now, here's the thing. We need to keep whisking this for 20 minutes. Yes, you heard that correctly. 20 minutes. Because you see how pale it is right now. We want that to darken. We want this to become like sort of a caramel brown, if not darker, but we don't want to burn it. So we're going to do this on medium heat. Okay, I'm going to turn that slightly down. We're going to do it on medium heat. If you find that it's, oh my gosh, is it going to burn, you can always pop it down to low. Okay, so yeah, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do this off camera for 20 minutes. I'm not going to subject you to watching me whisk this for 20 minutes, but when we come back, you're going to see me, and it's going to be done, or we're going to be near the end anyway. I move on to the next stage, but okay, so here goes 20 minutes of whisking. And they suggested on the website, or that I found the recipe on, that put on a good podcast or have some music to keep you company while you're doing this. So, okay, I'm going to pop this down to low so I can turn my camera off, and when I come back, we're going to be starting the next stage. So, but that's the way you're starting with it, see, so you can see how it starts. Alright, so I just popped it down to low because I was turning my camera back on, but as you can see, that color is nicely caramelly sort of brown. Okay, so that's nice. You pop it back up to medium if you have it on low. Okay, so after your 20 minutes of whisking and everything, we can switch over from a whisk to a big spoon. Okay, so now we are going to put in our vegetables that are already chopped up. I have them in bags because I did it last night, and these actually were done, the onions that weren't done last night because I already had them. So now we're going to put that in, the onions in there, and we're going to switch over to that. Going to put our celery and green pepper chopped up in there, and then we're going to let that simmer, give that a saute all together, so it's going to look like that. So it's like, wow, that just kind of like almost looks like they're coated in flour, doesn't it, right, the vegetables? We're going to make sure it's not too high. We're going to give that a bit of a simmer for 5 minutes. So we'll do that and come back. Okay, so about 5 minutes later, okay, so we're like that. Now, I'm going to add our minced garlic. So I've already done it previously, but like I say, if you're doing this the day, like, you're chopping up your vegetables, make sure that they're chopped up before you start with your roux, okay, because you're not going to be able to keep an eye on the roux properly and do that. So now we're going to just have that garlic in there for about a minute. So let it saute a little bit for about a minute in with that stuff. Okay, and then we're going to have our sausage rounds, sort of like, so we've cut them in rounds, okay? So the sausage, whatever kind of sausage you're using, like I say, it's supposed to be andouille sausage, but you may have a difficulty finding it. If you do, you can use, like I say, Spanish chorizo, or a kielbasa of some kind, okay? So, yeah. So we're going to get that, and then the next thing that goes in there is that sausage. So I'm going to, the sausage rounds, whoops, I forgot one down here. Okay. So we're making noise back here. So we're going to get the sausage in with that, okay. Then we're going to put in our Cajun spice blend plus some salt, some extra salt in there too. So we'll add that in there. Okay. So get that all mixed up together. And next, we're going to add our chicken broth or vegetable broth. So I have homemade broth here, and I know there's about 3 cups in here. So we need a lot. We need like 4 cups of broth. So that's not quite cutting it. We need 4 cups of broth plus 1 cup of water. So there's the rest of the broth I need plus some water. Get that in there. And then we are going to need the tomatoes. So this is funny because it says 14 ounces. Well, that can is not 14 ounces. If you look on a measuring cup, you can see that 14 ounces would be about 1 cup and 3/4. So let's see if we can get this up to 1 cup and 3/4 or so. Yeah, round about like that. I mean, if you want to, you could just say, oh, the heck with it, I'm just going to put in the rest of the can. Like, we could just do that. Like, just like, are you going to be picky and go, oh, just that 14 ounces? Or are you just going to say, hey, I'm just going to use the rest of the can, right? Put the rest of the can in there. So then at this point, we need to add the bay leaves. So where did I put my bay leaves? So I just have them in the bag. We're going to add a couple bay leaves to this. So I want some decent ones out of here. Let's see what I can find out of here for decent bay leaves. Yeah, that's okay. That one's alright. So yeah, put a couple bay leaves in there. And then we are going to turn that up a little bit. We want to get this to sort of like a low boil first. So we're going to do that, get it low boiling, then turn it down so that it can simmer. Kind of not, simmer. So a little bit of a low boil. We want some bubbly action, but not like boiling like crazy. And we're going to have that going for 45 minutes. So I'm not going to subject you to sitting here looking at the pot for 45 minutes. But we will be back once we get to that point after the 45 minutes. Alright, so about 45 minutes has gone by. And as you can see, I'm not sure if you can notice this, but where I'm putting the end of my wooden spoon is where the volume was when we started like 45 minutes ago, and now it's come down because it's been simmering away. Oh my gosh, not for the first time, and I've said this before, I wish I could share the smell with you. Okay, so at this point we're going to add shrimp. Now they've been shelled and deveined, okay, but they are raw shrimp, okay, so not already pre-cooked shrimp. Going to add them in there, give it a little bit of a stir. The other thing we're going to add is some frozen okra. So I've got a package of that. It's about right for the amount, so I'm just going to whack the whole package in there. I'm just going to whip this up a little bit to get it going back to the simmer. And we're going to check it in about 10 minutes, so I'm going to turn the camera off again. And we're going to come back in about 10 minutes and give that a check once again. Alright, so we've had about 10 minutes go by. What I'm going to do is snag one of the shrimp in here. And I'm going to check it for doneness, like how it's done. Now it looks nice and pink, right? So that looks good. I'm just going to just cut through it and see if it's cooked through. Yeah, that's cooked through. And it's not like mushy, like it's not soft. And like barely done, so I'm going to whack that back in. The other thing we got to snag out of there is bay leaves. So where's my bay leaves at? Hold on a second. So we're going to snag the bay leaves out of here, and we are going to give it a try. But look how good that looks. I'm going to give it a little stir so you can see. But look at that. Look at that. How good that is. And oh my gosh, it smells amazing. So let's give that a try. All right, so let's give this a try. I have my bowl of it here. Oh my goodness, the smell. Okay, I'm just going to try a little bit of the broth first. I know that sounds crazy, but yeah. Oh. Oh, that's nice. The okra is nice and tender. Let's try a shrimp. Oh, so good. Excuse me. I've made it a little less spicy than some people might like. In the recipe, though, it's plenty spicy for me, but in the recipe, it does call for additional, cayenne pepper if you want it, right? So you can do that. And also, you know, maybe your sausages, mine was like a mild chorizo, so not as spicy as you can get, so you can get really spicy sausage. The other thing is, if you do all of this, and you've added all the spice that you can think of to add, and it's still not spicy enough for you, you can always add some hot sauce at the end, you know, when you're eating it. Speaking of which, when you serve it out, I've got it sort of like a soup right now, but you can just serve it out over rice and make it like a full dinner, right? That's very easy to do that. And I know that if you're one of these kind of people that love spicy stuff, you know, and I know, that you've got hot sauce in your fridge. So, you know, and I know some people that have a whole shelf of hot sauce in their fridge. So you know who you are, and you can always add that to it afterwards. I've just kept mine fairly mild because I'm a bit of a chicken when it comes to hot and spicy, but it's nice. It's very nice. I hope you give it a try. And like I say, there is options in the recipe that is found on the Dietary Restriction Kitchen website that will make it spicier for you. So absolutely. So you can make it as spicy or mild as you like. And it's a wonderful way to have a classic, and you know that it has no gluten and dairy in it. So hope you give it a try. Thanks for stopping by today here at the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. See you next time. Bye for now.